What's going on, Twins fans? Happy Friday, and welcome back to another episode of Twins Latest. I'm Sam Calder. Hope you're all doing well as we approach the weekend. I'm excited personally for today's episode, and we've got quite a bit to get to. So, without further ado, we are going to shake things up today, and we're going to start the episode with our prospect deep dive. If you missed yesterday's video, I said I'm going to start doing these every day for a little while because teams typically invite around 65 players to their spring trainings. So there's going to be a bunch of guys that you know nothing about playing in games for the Twins over the next 7 weeks or so. But this way you will know something about them. So far, we've talked about Walker Jenkins, Connor Prelip, Merrick Houston, and Adrian Bojorquez. And today's prospect is a guy that I'm surprised there isn't more buzz around, quite honestly. It is outfielder Gabriel Gonzalez. Gonzalez is the Twins' number 8 prospect, according to MLB Pipeline and Fangraphs. The Twins acquired him from Seattle in the Jorge Polanco trade a couple of years ago, and he was part of that return, as was Justin Topa. Fun fact for you. Walker Jenkins and Emmanuel Rodriguez get all the headlines when it comes to the Twins' outfield prospects, but Gonzalez was actually better than both last year. He made it all the way to AAA as a 21-year-old, and he hit 316 there over 148 plate appearances. He also hit 344 at AA, so it's not like he just had, a good month. He was a phenomenal hitter for the entirety of the season. He had a 395 on base percentage and only struck out 80 times in 550 plate appearances. He had 15 homers and 56 total extra base hits in 123 games. He's probably never going to be a guy that hits 30 home runs in a season. He's 5'11", 165 pounds. He's also just not a guy that hits a lot of fly balls. His fly ball rate over his time in the minors is right around 31%. I think that, paired with the fact that he doesn't hit the ball super hard, is a big part of the reason why he's not ranked as high as some of the other Twins prospects like Jenkins and Rodriguez. His hardest hit ball at AAA was 110 miles an hour, which is really good, especially for a small sample size like 150 plate appearances. But his average exit velocity across every ball he put in play was 87.6 miles an hour, and that's pretty darn low. That would have been right around the 20th percentile of all major league hitters last year. For reference, Walker Jenkins' average exit velocity at AAA was 89.1 miles an hour, and even that I would like to see increase. Rodriguez's was 90.1 miles an hour. Gonzalez's hard hit rate was only 33.9%, which would have been in roughly the 15th percentile of all MLB hitters. And I get, like I said, this is a very small sample size. I mean, this is all from 109 balls he put in play at AAA. But you'd like to see some more consistent hard contact from Gonzalez this year. Despite, though, not being a huge power hitter, he makes contact and does not strike out often. He has a 60 grade hit tool, which means he projects to be an above average hitter at the major league level, since 50 is considered average. In his 441 career minor league games, he's hitting 301, and his strikeout rate is at 15.3%. Those are both extremely impressive numbers for a guy his age. He's a solid defender in the outfield as well. He's got a really good arm, which is a great thing for a corner outfielder. There are a few too many errors last year for my liking, which I would like to see that get cleaned up, but I expect it will with more reps. I'm going to be really curious to see between the three of Walker Jenkins, Emmanuel Rodriguez, and Gabriel Gonzalez, which of them gets called up first. Because realistically, I could see it being any of them. Jenkins and Rodriguez probably have a higher upside. But like I said earlier, Gonzalez was better than both of them last year, and as of right now, might be the best of the three, at least offensively. All of them are more than likely to start at AAA in 2026. So that would be a really, really fun outfield trio to watch. And while I don't expect Gonzalez to hit, 329 again like he did in the minors last year, he could very, very easily be, right around 300. And if he does that, it is going to be tough to not call him up. But shifting gears from Gabriel Gonzalez, the Twins signed free agent reliever Matt Bowman to a minor league contract. Bowman has spent a little time with the Twins over the last couple of years. He signed a minor league contract ahead of the 2024 season. He was then designated for assignment and traded, and then signed another minor league contract that same summer with the Twins. Bowman has thrown 240 and two-thirds career innings in the majors since his debut in 2016. He has a career 4.38 ERA with 194 strikeouts to 83 walks. Last season with Baltimore, He threw 24 and 2/3 innings. He finished the year with a 6.2 ERA, which is not good at all. 18 strikeouts and 6 walks. He got hit around quite a bit. He gave up 31 hits in those 24 and 2/3 innings. Bowman is not a strikeout pitcher by any means, but despite a rough 2025, he was still really good when it came to giving up hard contact. He allowed hard contact on just 35.2% of every ball put in play against him last year. For reference, Pablo Lopez was at 35.3%, so 0.1% worse, and he was in the 86th percentile of all pitchers when it came to giving up hard contact. So I'm not really sure how he gave up 31 hits in 24 innings. That doesn't really add up. Bowman has technically a 5-pitch mix, but he really only throws 3 or 4 of them. He has a sinker, a cutter, a sweeper, a splitter, and a four-seam fastball. He threw his splitter and his four-seam a combined 12% of the time last year. Those were also his 2 worst pitches, so I'm perfectly okay with that. His sinker, which he threw 43% of the time last year, is his best pitch. It had a 113 stuff plus rating last season. That's really, really high for a sinker. Usually with fastballs, you don't see much over like 110. So that's really encouraging. His sweeper and his cutter were also both above league average. So he's got 3 really solid pitches he can rely on. He's certainly not a flamethrower. His average sinker velocity was 91.1 miles an hour last year. For MLB standards, that's pretty slow. But he also gets really good movement on that pitch, so it's not as big a deal. All in all, Bowman might not be a huge addition to the bullpen, but I think there is upside. And for what it's worth, I mean, the 7 2/3 innings he threw with the Twins in 2024 were the best 7 2/3 innings of his career. He had a 2.35 ERA in 5 relief appearances. If we can get that level of production, he will certainly be a big boost to the bullpen. But right now, I don't know that he's guaranteed for opening day just with how crowded the pitching staff is. So I'm not going to bank on that happening, but I do think he could be a solid addition over the course of the year. Shifting from Matt Bowman, we are officially under 50 days away from opening day. And with that, I want to give you guys my official prediction for the Twins 26-man opening day roster. Now, quick disclaimer, I will update my prediction relatively frequently throughout spring training. I'm thinking like once a week or so, once game starts, because a lot of things can change between then and opening day. But this is my guess as of February 5th, as I'm recording this. And another quick disclaimer, I'm going to list a few hitters at multiple positions. That's just because they're utility guys who can theoretically play, multiple spots. So I'll mention them for anywhere that they can play, but they will only count for obviously one spot on the roster. Let's start with the hitters. I will go position by position. So starting with catcher, this one's pretty easy. There's only 2 names. It's Ryan Jeffers and Victor Caratini. The only way I see another catcher on the opening day roster is if one of those guys gets hurt, in which case Alex Jackson is probably the guy you'll see brought up. Otherwise, Jeffers is probably going to catch roughly 2 out of every 3 games. Caratini will catch the other one. At first base, we've got Caratini again because he can play first base, as well as Josh Bell, Cody Clemens, and Eric Wagaman. I anticipate Caratini, Clemens, and Wagaman all getting some run at first base, as well as Josh Bell, but I'll talk about him a little bit later on. I think Wagaman's starts will likely come against left-handed pitchers, but he could also get some starts in the outfield. Moving to second base, Luke Keeschall will be the everyday second baseman if he's healthy. Cody Clemens could pick up a start here and there, but Keeschall presumably has that spot locked up. At third base, it's going to be a healthy Royce Lewis, ideally. He figures to be the everyday third baseman, but Wagaman can also play some third base, as can Tristan Gray, who is also on the roster in my eyes. At shortstop, it'll be Brooks Lee. Shortstop is the one position I don't expect the Twins to have a ton of options for to start the year at least. It'll be Lee and probably just Tristan Gray behind him, at least for right now. That's how I have it. But just to recap, before we move to the outfield, I've got 9 guys listed thus far. Ryan Jeffers, Victor Caratini, Josh Bell, Cody Clemens, Eric Wagaman, Luke Keeschall, Tristan Gray, Royce Lewis, and Brooks Lee. Those are the 9 projected opening day infielders in my eyes. That means we've got 4 outfielders, and this is where if something unexpected is going to happen, I think it's probably going to be in the outfield. But I'm going to keep it pretty straightforward. My 3 starting outfielders should not be any surprise. It's Byron Buxton, Matt Wallner, and Trevor Larnach. With my 4th outfielder on the bench being Austin Martin. Wagaman and Cody Clemens can play some outfield as well. And just in general, there's a ton of lineup versatility. Looking at roster resource, the only difference that I have compared to their projections is that they project outfielder James Outman to make the team. I have Tristan Gray making it ahead of him. Everything else is the same. Josh Bell, who I mentioned at first base, is my bet for the primary DH. He's not a strong defender, and there's a couple guys who are that can play first base. So why make things complicated? And then before I move to the pitchers, my projected batting order based on those 13 names. This is assuming the Twins are against a righty. It goes in order. Hitting leadoff is center fielder Byron Buxton. Second is second baseman Luke Keeschall. Batting third is DH Josh Bell. Hitting cleanup is right fielder Matt Wallner. Hitting fifth is left fielder Trevor Larnach. Sixth is catcher Ryan Jeffers. Seventh is third baseman Royce Lewis. Eighth is first baseman Victor Caratini. And hitting ninth at shortstop is Brooks Lee. Now, that would change quite a bit versus a lefty and or based on performance over the year. Obviously, things will change. But for now, that's what I would do. Moving to the pitching staff, we've got room for 13 pitchers on the opening day roster. There's a 13 pitcher limit, so even if I wanted to have a deeper bullpen and a thinner bench, I legally cannot do so. Starting in the rotation, I decided that the Twins will roll out a 5-man rotation to start the year. I'm not sure it will stay that way the whole season. They could make it a 6-man rotation at some point. They could make it a 6-man rotation at the beginning of the year, but I've got it starting with 5. Those 5 starters in order: the ace, Pablo Lopez; number 2, Joe Ryan; number 3, Bailey Ober; number 4, Zebby Matthews; and number 5, Simeon Woods Richardson. The reason I decided to only have 5 starters instead of 6, like I've talked about potentially doing, is because I wanted to add a starter or 2 to the bullpen. That's something I've been talking about for weeks now. I think that's the best way the Twins can improve their late game pitching. So in the bullpen, we've got 8 relievers. 2 of those are actually starters that are getting moved to a relief role. Those 2 guys are Taj Bradley and David Festa. I think that for a few different reasons. The first being, I think those guys would be better as relievers anyways. The second reason is those are guys who can be spot starters if needed. I mean, say if one of the starters tweaks something during warmups, one of those guys can throw 4 to 5 innings if needed, assuming they're rested enough. The other reason is that then allows the Twins to have a normal 5-man starting rotation at AAA that consists of Connor Prelip, Mick Abel, Andrew Morris, Marco Raya, and Kendry Rojas. We haven't talked a whole lot about Raya or Rojas. We've talked a little bit about Morris, but we'll talk about more about all 3 of those guys later into the offseason, I promise. The other thing that I could see them doing is putting Prelip in the opening day bullpen, or Mick Abel for that matter, but I think that's less likely than having them start at AAA. As for the other 6 relievers in the Twins opening day bullpen, I've got it divided into 2 separate categories. The first category is the sure things, which is, as it sounds, the guys who I really don't have to think twice about being included. There are 4 names for this. I debated putting a 5th in there, but those 4 names are Taylor Rogers, Cole Sands, Justin Topa, and Cody Funderburk. Those guys seem like very safe bets to be on the opening day roster. The other 2 names that I settled on are Eric Orzi, who I almost put in the sure things category, and then Jackson Cower, who we just talked about yesterday. With Cower, I went back and forth between him and Matt Bowman as the Twins' last reliever, but the Twins need somebody with some velocity in the bullpen, and Cower's fastball averaged 97.3 miles per hour last year. That is comfortably the fastest of anybody in the Twins' bullpen. But that is what my current Twins opening day roster looks like. And like I said, I will tweak this once a week or so once spring training games start. But with everyone healthy and nobody actually playing any baseball right now, this is how I currently have the Twins roster on opening day shaping up. And to cap off the episode, we've got our Twins player preview. Today's player is starting pitcher Simeon Woods Richardson. I just mentioned him as my bet for the Twins' 5th starter to open the season. Last year, he made 22 major league starts and threw 111 innings, finishing with a 4.04 ERA and 107 strikeouts to 46 walks. His expected ERA was 3.82, so he wasn't bad last year by any means. The advanced numbers for Woods Richardson, though, are not overly encouraging. He was below league average in every single advanced metric aside from batting average allowed, and he was actually 81st percentile in that. He didn't give up a ton of hits last year, but his walk, barrel, and ground ball rates were all 20th percentile or worse. So when he did give up hits, they went a long way. He gave up 17 home runs in those 111 innings. He didn't get hitters to chase pitches, nor did he get many swings and misses. So despite having an expected ERA in the threes, he wasn't super impressive last year on the whole. We did see his strikeout percentage jump from 19.9% in the first half of the season up to 28.3% in the second half. And that is because in the month of September, he had a 2.33 ERA over 27 innings and 36 strikeouts to 9 walks. If we get 75 to 80% of that production for 6 months this year out of Simeon Woods Richardson, that is a damn good number 5 starter. Looking at his pitch profiles, he has a 5-pitch mix with a fastball, a slider, a curveball, a splitter, and a changeup. But his only pitch with an above league average stuff plus grade was his changeup, and he threw it 4% of the time last year. He threw it 39% of the time in 2023 and 19% in 2024. So I'm not really sure why he's been throwing it less and less when it's consistently his best pitch every year. I'm just going to come out and say it bluntly. I'm not very high on Simeon Woods Richardson this year. And if there's a shakeup in the Twins rotation or they move on from somebody midseason, I would bet he's the guy getting the short end of the stick on that. I just don't see a way with how deep the Twins rotation is in the minors that he's a long-term piece of the pitching staff. And maybe he takes a step up this year and he finishes with, a mid-threes ERA and 150 strikeouts. That would be great. But he just doesn't do any particular thing super well. He's not a flamethrower with a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. He doesn't have great command of the strike zone. His pitches themselves are not that great. I think he'll have an ERA somewhere in the 4s, but I think the chances of him finishing with an ERA in the 5s is more likely than him finishing with an ERA in the 3s. So I am not super bullish on Simeon Woods Richardson entering 2026, but I would love to be wrong. But that's all I've got. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Twins Latest. Please do me a favor, and if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel. That's all I ask. It helps me a ton. If there's a Twins-related topic or topics that you want me to talk about in a future episode, please let me know down below in the comments. But have a great weekend, and until next time, I'm Sam Calder, and I'm out.